Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we're going to be checking out a total of 6 tracks from an act named Minami. This is going to be an interesting review, so we're going to switch over to here. This is from an anonymous individual who is wanting me to review 6 of Minami's tracks, including starting with Waiting for Rain. There is also an interview which I have been asked to check out at the third track mark just for a bit of extra insight, so I'm hoping I remember to read through that then. I'm sure I will. I'm usually pretty good about that kind of stuff. We also have English lyrics for these apparently, so it's quite nice as I don't know if I can necessarily speak. I'm assuming that's Japanese. I'm not that familiar with the language. But yeah, we're going to listen through each of these 6 tracks from start to finish. We're going to hear what we think. With Waiting for Rain, let's go. Interesting synth sound with the keys. Great development of the drums here. Can you hear the vocal, the little bits of strain on the vocals occasionally with the weight of the emotion of the words that are coming through? I don't think there's any point in universalizing it. We have strings and guitars here. This and claps now. There are so many different instrumental layers to this. It's wonderfully layered. And even natural harmonics. Bass solo? I mean, it's just wonderful, isn't it? Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think this is going to be a bit of a brutal one. But because she is such such a viscerally emotive singer. Like some of those accented, those belts that we had were utterly phenomenal, and you just get this massive flow of force from it. And you can tell that for Minami, this is stuff that they feel viscerally from their deep core. You know, it's something that they are really trying to get out in the world. And what do I think this track is about? Waiting for Rain. I think that it's about someone they're trying to connect with someone else. There is a point. There's stuff that they're going through, and the other person can only see a specific version of that. And they're trying to find a way of communicating what that is, but whenever the person finds it, they might misinterpret it. And they want them to know who they used to be rather than who they are now, because maybe going back to who they used to be is a lot better or something like that. Or maybe they want them to think of someone different so that they will still like them. I'm not sure. There's a lot of pain. It's there's a lot of pain. Yeah, I'm struggling with it a bit. There's a lot of pain going on. Minami is one of the few musicians I've listened to, and they just evoke that intense kind of feeling from it. I listen to music on a regular basis as a professional music reviewer, and she hits like a train without fail. The mixture of the really fascinating, colorful piano line with the little sparkling dun 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 dun, those pedal notes there at the start, combined with the flow of the wonderfully effervescent drums as we continued through the track there with lots of interesting grooves there. And the bass being nice and full on with root notes, but also going into sort of a bass solo-ish bit later on in the piece, going along with the interlude with the vocals, with the guitars providing a nice sense of mistiness and glow to it with the chords that they play alongside some natural harmonics after the choruses. And I think there were strings as well that built as we went along, and they rose up in that last set, maybe the second chorus or the last choruses, and they added more to it, more flow, more energy, more weight to it. And you slowly started to understand alongside listening through the lyrics and hearing Minami, we had a lot going on here, and this is a big song for them. It's the beauty of music that it transcends language barriers. I don't think I would have necessarily have needed to have read the lyrics to feel what I feel now, but the lyrics do help. So I'm also thankful that there are translations. But that's my thoughts on Waiting for Rain. It's clearly commercial grade. Like, she's clearly a phenomenal singer, and the songwriting the composition's well done. But that does not mean I am disinterested in listening through the remaining 5 tracks, as we have Hallowness now, track number 2. And it's just the sound design with things flowing in the center, then the guitars on the left, and then the right. It really is inspirational. That vocal fry there, man. That vocal fry is absolutely stunning. That raunchiness, that grit, that intensity there is phenomenal. That's very special. And the toms. Major lift? Oh, that change of tempo got me. That was heavy. That is a phenomenal way of adjusting the flow of something. I thought we were getting really intense with the toms going up into the chorus during that build, but damn, man, we slowed down and everything hit like a truck, dude. I keep saying hit like a truck, like a train. Interesting choice of the I'm back to the motif there. Interesting choice of major lifter there with the last little bit. And it's just like the stereo placement of the panning of things going around the sides of the headphones as well. And like a waltz isn't with the triplets. This is a really this is more of a journey for a song, isn't it, than anything else? And no major lift this time. And wondrous vocal harmonies. I mean, just an ending on that low piano note there after the huge furore of the drums, the guitar, the bass, and then the piano. Like, the piano work in this track is phenomenal. There's moments where it's just the bass and the guitar and those interesting nostalgic sort of synthy parts there, but then you just have the 3, 4, 1 and a 2 and is it triplets? Yeah, I think it's definitely triplets. It's like a waltz through trying to figure out if you can ever be the person you want to be, and maybe even accepting that we never will be that person. And again. Oh, that drum fill with that guitar solo? Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow, that one got me. Oh, shit. Sorry, excuse the swearing. I know it's not cool. What is this one about? I think that this one is about someone who they have two sides to them. Maybe it's their actual who they are and who they want to be and who they're trying to sort of like represent. And it could be like because of Minami's fame, for example. It could be who see her as versus who she really is. And it's trying to get rid of that person because she's feeling as if she can never live up to those expectations that have been made or are expected. It's a wonderful song. The vocals are transcendent. That last high run there, soaring over top of the guitar and drum solo parts there for that length of time is wondrous. It's not just that though. That grit, that fry there, that kind of growl there, that virtuous lie kind of thing, whatever it was before those down-tempo choruses there that slow down and sort of sound like they're smothering and suffocating you. The song lurches forward at that point in those choruses. Like, from a music reviewer standpoint, like that's above what you'd expect from most professional musicians. There's just something radical about it. Something completely just it's so impressive about someone understanding, hey, I can slow the song down at this point to really invoke that sense of just struggling, breaking through, not moving forward, to make a listener feel something like that with something so relatively simple but also simultaneously rare is incredibly impressive. It's just wonderful. The song itself is just that absolutely smashed it. The guitar, bass, drum performance on there, especially the drum solo at the end there with this triplet goes throughout, just keeping that sense of tension until that point with that release at the end. That massive amount of passion and that trying to break free of that cage they're in. The wonderful piano bits as well as the occasional points where they kind of sit there and simmer on their thoughts. The dynamic range throughout the track, the variations in theme, the original structure. There's clearly division parts of the track and like that part where like it got kind of all major tempo-ish as if we were living a line out with something glorious. The false success of it. It's so wonderfully handled. It's so much care taken within it, you know. So much care taken within it. It's great to be able to listen to and review this for sure. Now, for the third track, as I mentioned, there was an interview apparently done with Minami that I've been asked to sort of have a read through before listening through this track, just to kind of get extra context, you know. So this is probably going to spoil what the song is about, but that's absolutely fine. That's okay, because I'm reading through the lyrics through the track as you listen through it. Anyways, I'm going to put the interview on is that the side, that side. So the text is going to be on that side for the interview. The full interview is down in the description. If this gets blocked on YouTube, I'll make sure to put the link in the Patreon post as well. Interviewer says, "Could you also share one of your own recommended songs?" Minami says, "Main Actor is a song that represents my origin in music. By listening to it, you should be able to catch a glimpse of how and why I got into music. While it may not completely fit with the current era, I believe it's a song where I was able to express my true, bare self." Earlier in the interview, apparently, interviewer, "That sounds like a critical turning point in your life. Back then, I felt truly lonely. Although there were people who saw my street performances and approached me, very few were willing to genuinely connect with me, so I thought I would just continue with music on my own. However, my current manager was different. He or she believed in me in a musical sense and engaged with me earnestly. That made me want to definitely achieve results in music as a way of starting to act upon that belief. I also see it as a way of repaying him or her." So you get a feeling that like that they had that one person who took a chance on them. And this is where a lot of this really started to take off. "What a passionate story." Interviewer, this is the interviewer. "Well, how did you overcome your parents' opposition?" Minami, "When music started to take priority over my studies, they were furious to the point of saying you're disowned." So clearly the parents weren't positive about it at first. "Driven by desperation, I left home without a penny, resolved to achieve something significant to earn their recognition. For about 2 months, I lived a life juggling around 5 part-time jobs while dedicating my free time to music. This was during the time that Kawaki wo Ameku was released, around the time I passed an audition and my debut was set into motion." And then that's how things progressed. "Thankfully, Kawaki wo Ameku was well received by many, which gradually led my parents to acknowledge my music activities. Looking back, I can understand their opposition, and it was precisely the resistance that motivated me to seriously engage with music. Now I love my parents more than ever. Both of them are incredibly positive and have some wild ideas, but they're cool parents with hearts of steel. They're a huge emotional support, and I've always looked up to them." So you get a feeling of kind of where Minami came from here, as well as the difficulties they had with their parents accepting it. I completely understand that. I mean, I'm a music teacher. I'm not gonna make this about myself, but like I can relate to that with parents not necessarily agreeing with your decisions. And I'm really proud of Minami for trying to make it on her own, because clearly it was worthwhile. It was a smart move. But we've got main actor now, track number 3. I think I've listened to this one. And it's just how the bass syncs with the guitar parts on the lead there. The unison is really pretty.
漫画の主人公のあいつは言った。僕がお前を守るからってさ。ほんとかっこいいよな、主人公ってさ。僕といえばただ逃げ出すだけの村人 B くらいかな。
Talkie rapping?
一つせず笑って陰では泣いて戦った救ったあいつはみんなの人気者だったヒーローだった当たり前僕といえばただ主人公にすがって頼る村人しいくらいかなただ朝待ってた何もせず僕は一人ベッドの上で一杯のスープを飲みながらテレビの前でまた同じようなニュースを見ながらまたいつもの平和を待ってたんだ一つだけ一つだけ一つだけ一つだけ僕がここにいる証明を僕にしか僕にしか僕にしか僕にしかできないことの証明を君だって
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to give a shout out to how well it was phrased going up into that higher head voice there. It's such an easy contrast from the verse part with the lower phrasing in the frequency in a vocal range, but it also makes room for any like kind of drum parts there. It helps to separate them.
証明を君だって同じだって誰だって待ってるって僕だってそれが何かわからないから歌ってんだろう
Well done. Oh, there's a Moog synth in the background. That's kind of dope. I like that, or a Reese or something like that. Hang on a minute, I want to do something real quick. There you go, you can keep an eye on it now. It kind of sounded like she was it kind of sounded like she was crying out, and that last those last notes there sounded like she was crying out, and you kind of get the feeling with the tears as well as just wanting to be the most important to someone. As a contrast to earlier in the track where she just felt like a villager who ran away, that guitar was giving her strength, that music. Fantastic unison bends. Oh, that chord. What was that? Was that like a diminished to minus 7 flat 5 or something like that? Ba-da-da-down, ba-da-da-down. I'm not sure, but either way, it was awesome. Interesting fade out there. And that door is closed. It's a new chapter. That was an interesting track. It was more compositionally conservative, I think, than previous songs were done. I'm just putting myself back here. I adore it. I think that it was a smart move to focus on the guitar parts there. Is there any more? I think it was a smart decision to focus on the guitar here, as Minami mentioned, like in that video, it shows her like with the guitar, like that music, just being able to play the guitar was a way of her getting through the difficulties where she felt like she wasn't enough. She felt like she was nothing. She just wanted to be something to someone. And we've had themes throughout these tracks where Minami seems to feel like she's just not even really like much of a human being at all. She's very incredibly hard on herself. I think a lot of the stuff that she sings about is very authentic because it's stuff she's gone through. It's very difficult to hear it sometimes because of the pain that she's clearly trying to communicate to the listener. With that said, though, I think it's a tremendous effort by Minami in this part to sort of keep things like it's more of a vocal focused one. It's not just that we can sing really competent in a lower range there. There are a lot of really high notes that da 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 kind of going up to that kind of range there, which for me is a falsetto as a guy. But for Minami, it's like a situation where that's just the upper part, but she nails every run. And even some extra poppy kind of like extra oomphy bits there up going a bit higher in that range for that last outro bit there. We're kind of continuing to rise up and try and get towards that point where we feel like I think that she's showing gratitude for the position she's in as a musician, if I'm not mistaken there. That she's in a position where she can allow herself to be wanted and loved by people and to be forgiven and stuff like that for not being a perfect person, but just to be enough. And I think the glow of the guitars with the very strummed parts, the arpeggiated bits there with the lead bits that we had alongside the piano, the drum parts and the bass parts and everything, and the little moogish things we had occasionally there, just for a bit of softness and soothing kind of glow and warmth to it there. This wasn't meant to be as sort of theatrical and bombastic as the previous track there, but, like hollowed or something along those lines. This one was more about, again, her voice, and her voice being like her raison d'etre, I suppose. I don't know. I'm going to stop there. I feel like I'm going on a tangent, but well done. Track number 3 is dope. I can kind of relate to how it works with the interviewer talking about there. I assume some of the struggles were that she wanted to be enough for her parents and stuff like that as well, and eventually she got there because she found that success. To be clear, I don't think that people should need to succeed in order to be enough for their parents. I think that failing is something you've got to do a lot before you succeed in a lot of situations. And I'm sorry to hear that Minami went through that, but I'm glad that her parents accept her now. That's good. I also understand why her parents were scared for their daughter because, holy crap, not doing school to do, music can be a hell of a ride and a hell of a risk. So it's complicated. But we got Drop, track number 4 for today. Thank you to the person who gave me the link to the interview. It was great to hear more about her, though. What? It dropped, didn't it? I thought we were going to be up in that mid-range there, but then suddenly we go low and it's dropped. There we go. Nice. Okay, we're teasing a bit. We had many electronic drums throughout these tracks, because I feel like this is the first one where they've been a bit more distinct. Strings are a nice choice here. Yeah, we keep flirting with the idea of going to a higher level of intensity there. I think this is like potentially talking about like a loop of constantly going back and forth on something, but which is being communicated instrumentally. That progression there, that major lift there, is it that the night is relentless and we just never seem to find relief and we're just always kind of feeling anxious or nervous about something, but eventually someone will come to save us or we'll find that respite? Key change? Called it. That was interesting. I thought we were going to double that. There's so much variety within this, but at the same time, that first 3 minutes felt so constant. Not sure about that one. That one's a little bit unusual for me. I'm not sure how to place that. Is that related to a specific anime? Okay, I'm gonna go about what I think this is about. I think this track, first of all, is about someone who literally or not literally, they were given something by someone, like a forbidden fruit. Like maybe the candy was the thing they were either supposed to swallow or not give back. Maybe it was like something that would be a great cost to them if they were to eat it. Like maybe it was like a power, but it came at like there was a sacrifice to be made. And this person was unsure about whether or not they really wanted to commit to it. And then at the end, they just got so angry at this person who offered them this thing because the pain and the situation they were put in that they basically threw it back at them through that red light, which was the thing stopping them from trying to have a future. And maybe that person, that red light is indicative of like something being released after that. I'm not quite sure. That's what I can take from this. I get the feeling this is an anime-based thing. The last 3 track scenes have been more sort of centered around Minami themselves. I don't have an issue with that. I think the combination of elements we had in here, with the bass, the drums, I mean, with the synths, and you know, there were lots of different instruments. The strings came back in here later on. We had the electronic drums with interesting 16th note grooves there, and lots of range there, with lots of interesting bass tones as well. Eventually, spending 3 minutes kind of and enough, and we kind of had this consistency with the intensity of it, apart from those occasional builds at the end of sections there. And until eventually, I suppose we had an epiphany where we decided we figured out what we wanted, and then that part where the acoustic drums came in, and then the sort of guitars and everything like that. That was sort of a situation where we were kind of building up to something bigger. We're trying to get closer to the final kind of act of the play, I suppose. We're building up to be able to throw the thing back at that person. We had a lot of stuff going on with the guitars, the drums, the bass at that point. We had flutters of keys as well occasionally. It's a song where there was a lot to take in. There were some interesting chord and note choices with the harmonies. We had some interesting major resolutions there and maybe some key changes as well. I mean, there were several different key changes within it. This one, I don't know if I liked as much. I think instrumentally, compositionally, it makes it, without me knowing what the track's about, it seemed a little bit more polished with its production. There were less raw edges around it, so it seemed a little bit more kind of like, how do I say this? It sounds like it's been made for a product, and I know that sounds thoroughly brutal, but it sounds like you hear it in a movie soundtrack or an anime intro, and it'd be kind of inoffensive. The previous 3 tracks had a bit of grittiness or edge to them that I kind of appreciated. This seems more of a control performance, as if we don't necessarily kind of connect with it as the same way. I think the production is stellar. I think the note choice is there. The different chord progressions and bass lines with the track, how they interact and move within each other is fantastic. I don't think there was a note out of place with the performance. I just don't think that there was the same spark with this one as there were with previous tracks. I just think there was almost a bit too much going on and a bit too little at the same time. And maybe it's something where like either you have to know the anime they're talking about to kind of get the full sense of it or not. But even with that, even if I was to be familiar with it, I don't know. It sounds like a lot of anime intros I've heard, and I'm not sure if I would be able to accurately differentiate that in the grand scheme of things. But we have Minami, Eternal Blue, track number 5. Apparently this is not the official video for it. I could be wrong. But either way, track number 5. Sounds a bit rawer than previous takes. I like the point of things coming down to the tomodose part there, that last word. They're allowing a bit of a break, an extra bar for the phrasing. And some of the tracks that have previously as well will have like a tail end, but it will have one less bar or something to go into the next chorus or into the next verse, which keeps things unpredictable. The somber nature of the guitars within this piece, combined with the misty, reverb-laden, soaked vocals that we have, are sort of nostalgic. And with the strings come in with the drums and everything, and guitars through the vocal and the chorus parts, it sounds naturally, sounds bigger and a bit more kind of weighted emotively. You get a feel for part of what I think Minami's talking about without it being too committed at this point. Sorry, I'm babbling. There are some interesting sub-layer leads and synth parts which have like only the wet part of the reverb included there, which are an interesting touch as well. Yeah, this isn't the same kind of mix as the previous tracks. It's like we've almost put a little bit too much focus on the side elements there, and we're not allowing the lead guitar to have enough room at this point, in my opinion. Oh, key change. Interesting major lift there. Cool. Cool. Key change. No, vocal layering is fantastic. coming down from that with the chorus laden guitars. Awesome. Okay, so the first comment I want to make here is that I think this track would have sounded better if the audio were not compressed by a re-upload. I don't have an issue. I'm not going to mention the channel's name because I haven't done anything wrong. I think this is a re-upload of an original track. It might have been an older one if I'm not mistaken. When you re-upload a track, if you download it via like a website and then re-upload it, what occurs is there is fragmentation and issues potentially with the version after you go through that conversion, if that makes sense. So if it degrades, the quality audio gets smaller, like the dynamic range gets smaller. And what can happen there is that things sound more stuck together. And I'm wondering if, because I can tell that a lot of attention to detail was put in with like the panning of the guitars and stuff like that, how things were kind of mixed in on the sides there. There were some interesting decisions there production-wise that I couldn't really make the most of because of the re-upload. I still liked it, and I think it was well worth reviewing and listening through, but I'm just saying that for transparency. I think that's part of why the guitar solo, when I mentioned it, was a bit quiet. I think if this hadn't been like a re-upload, you would have gotten the full power of that. It sounds like things are a bit smothered here, and I just don't think this is the same quality as the original. So that's okay. I think that the song is about someone struggling with depression. They're just having a really rough time trying to sort of pull themselves out of it. They couldn't save people or save things, and they're blaming themselves for it. And at the end, we eventually get a bit, I suppose, with the key change, where we go to, no, we can get out of this, we can improve this, things can get better. And we are working towards that effectively. And I think if that is the case, that's something that's really beautiful. It's not the most unique take I've heard on it, but I think that it's a really mature, rounded one, and especially if this is an earlier track from Minami, the quality of the songwriting, the vocal layering is absolutely tremendous. We are very comfortable in our vocal range, but the side parts add a nice sort of paddish kind of aura to it. We even had some vocal harmonies doing like kind of cool and responding to ourselves as well. We clearly have not only the fundamentals sorted, but a lot of the advanced stuff down as well. We definitely deserve our success. The guitar, the strummed guitar parts with interesting sort of chorusy, chimey effects on them are wonderful. The bass and drums are nicely handled as well. I think we might have also had some other instruments in there, maybe some like strings and stuff later on, I'm not sure, but those are the main components I got on the first listen. Things are quite quiet in the mix, so there might have been some sort of sub layers that I missed. But either way, still well done for a 6-minute 20 track. I don't think you could have gotten away with having a repetition of that last outro without the key change. That bit of extra development was exactly what we needed to get it to that length. It was already quite long as it is, but it was still interesting to listen to. I'm glad that we had that solo section here to break things up structurally as well. We have the final track for today, which is titled Good Lucker from Minami. This has been a long video, but thank you for sticking with it. Hopefully you've enjoyed your time with it, but let's go. Good Lucker. Interesting tone to the distorted guitars here, eh? And the chimey bell gong thing going on. The scratchy guitar tones as well as the frenetic drums, they're so chaotic and I kind of adore it. Again, very different to what we had previously in a lot of respects. Just a shout out as well to how much I appreciate the attention to detail with the pianos, the guitar, and the drums. We've had similar phrasings for bridges from Minami before, but it's the backing that really elevates it. It's just more like a singly single, isn't it? See that little break there? There's a fantastic sense of flow with this track where you can kind of get lost into it, like melt into a dream. Melt into a dream. There you go, like that line there. It did feel like this track there's so much going on almost all the time. You can kind of get lulled into a false sense of like, oh no, everything's the same from this point. But then they have those breaks there and it kind of snaps you out of it and then back into the chorus. Can you hear the piano there? Can you hear the drums? If you can't, listen through headphones. The piano is absolutely absurd. And double bass. And the chromatics. Fantastic flex at the end, man. That run was scintillating. Crazy, dude. Wow, so good lucker. Good lucker. I think this track again is potentially based off another anime, if I'm not mistaken. But this one I felt had more cohesion to it. I could kind of understand this one. I think this track is about someone who is just kind of disillusioned with the world they're in and going nuts within it. Maybe they found someone they can relate to. At the end, when we talk about how we're tired, it's just everything is kind of full on and brute force, and they're trying to sort of trying to cope with the situation, but then they just realize I'm just screaming their lungs out. They just wish they could have just been let to kind of take it easy, but no, they've got to do all this kind of garbage as part of whatever the situation is, and then they just want to take a break at the end, you know? And whether it's her struggles or other people's struggles, it's something that I think Minami is adept at communicating about. And if it is related to like other protagonists within other animes or something like that, I think that it's probably a smart move to have her involved in it. You know, she's a fantastic singer. Those vocal belts near the end, the runs there, the legato to going up to those higher ranges and kind of working like a guitar solo with her voice. Da, 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 da. Like I can't do it because Minami's Minami, right? But she's just fantastic with the phrasing of those lines there. She waited until then, she pocketed and just boom, just belted it out. It's stunning though, really fantastic piece of material here from Minami. The guitars, drums, bass, and keys are frenetic throughout, not the whole time in the sense that like whenever you the drum, the 16th note grooves at the high tempo are incredible. The guitar with the scratchy tone there, distorted and stuff like that. It wasn't like lead soloing stuff, but the rhythm work was really full on and intense there with the short, fast drumming and stuff like that. And with the bluesy kind of lines and lead lines and stuff we had, etc. a bit later on as well. The keys with the arpeggiated stuff going on the right-hand broken chords was really neat there, nice and colorful, and the bass was nice and thick and full. The track was well fleshed out with an interesting sort of slow triplet part there. Kind of like we had in front of the previous tracks, and we kind of like did like that slow dance there. It was a switch of tempos as such. And then we just kind of went back to the main theme, and it was an interesting interlude switch to triplets, then back to straight 4/4. The quality of the production was commercial grade, as per a lot of the other stuff we've heard within this album so far, or within these tracks. So we're going to talk about it more in the conclusion, all this stuff about Minami. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of these tracks from an act named Minami titled, well, we had tracks, what tracks did we had? We had Good Lucker, Eternal Blue, Drop, Main Actor, Hallowness, and Waiting for Rain. And I think that the songs in general were phenomenal. I've talked about what I thought they were about. The usual theme is it's either talking about Minami's journey, whether it's through her struggles, trying to sort of like deal with herself as a person, like the depression and mental health issues she might have gone through trying to find a place in the world, or talking about other protagonists or situations in their respective animes, or if it's like her other ways of looking at the world and trying to sort of avoid eating the forbidden fruit. Her vocals, as I've said throughout, are utterly fantastic. I think that it's incredible to listen to her sing. She clearly knows what she's doing on the mic there. Phenomenal vocal technique in the head and chest voice there. Loves her melodies as well as her harmonies and her call and response there. And there's some sort of parts in the sides as well, which are really neat. I think that in terms of her ability, dissecting, I suppose. In terms of her ability to sort of like emote as well, it's utterly tremendous. There were growls and bits of kind of vocal fry there. Sometimes we were a bit softer as well. We weren't as sort of like intense with the delivery of the lines, which made it seem a little bit more sort of vulnerable and fragile. Very expressive. Typically those expressions matched what I thought was going on in the lyrics, what I read was going on in the lyrics. So there was things are nice and appropriate, and some parts even had me kind of tearing up a bit. It was just wonderfully attuned to the inner experience. The soul came out, and it was very believable and authentic, and I don't think there was a note out of place there. Wonderfully phrased and harmonized with the backings as well. With these tracks typically being between 5 and 6 minutes. Now, for the most part, I don't really have an issue with that. I mean, I think that the lengths are outside the 240-minute sweet spot, but we had enough stuff going on with the different verse and chorus sections as well as the verse solo sections to be able to carry it. Sometimes we had different interlude sections or key changes or extra vocal parts there, or key changes within the choruses as well, going from one to the other and different points of actualization. We had some tracks which were a lot slower, and they kind of came down in some parts to kind of allow things to fester. Like I think that the second track was like that, or it could have been the third track. It's just we made tracks that were typically very well written. I could kind of figure out what was going on and related to the songs, and I talked about the individual themes throughout. There's just so much going on with the way that the tracks are written and performed that it's just almost like you'd have to make a little kind of checklist for each track and go down like I've already done per track. The overall thoughts on the way the songs are written, I mean, I'll talk about the instruments I heard. Like, for example, the drums were phenomenal. We had some where we kind of pocketed with quarters or eighth notes and even some triplets. Other parts were like the previous song where like we're just frenetic and completely just insane and intense the entire time with the flow of those 16th grooves at a high tempo. We were very expressive with the kit. Typically, we had acoustic drums occasionally, like in the fourth track, I think we had electronic drums for 3 minutes. They were a bit more kind of emotively controlled there. They weren't as expressive. I personally preferred when the acoustic drums came in. Not that I think electronic drums are bad. It's just that they seem very kind of safe. And I think that was supposedly to maybe kind of because Minami was quote unquote holding it in at that point. But no, we communicated really well. But no, the drums were played really well. I think there was a nice sense of restraint when required, and other times when we let go, there was some incredible drum fills, like just incredible work there. Like some parts would go with the guitar solos, but we also knew when not to have drums, which was awesome as well. You know, we allowed the guitar, bass, strings, piano, and stuff like that to help hold their own. I thought that the guitar was sensational. The fifth track in particular had a lot of guitar, like strumming and picked parts. There were some leadish bits there. I thought the guitar solos we had there with the blues and sort of major and minor tonings were fantastic there. We had some chromatics and accidentals within the harmonies and arrangements, but we didn't typically have too many of those. There weren't too many blunt or harsh edges there. We were very comfortable with our triads there, the phrasing there, playing across the right variety of moods and rhythms. We could pick guitar tones that suited the tracks and the lyrics and the stuff that we were discussing. It was very like when we had lead solos, they didn't kind of overplay. They had lots of unison bends and stuff like that, ways of making things more melodic with the lead playing, and we didn't overcompensate there. And we weren't afraid to have some really harsher tones like in the sixth track or some softer ones like in the fifth. We just knew what we were doing with the guitar, and the notes were very nicely paced. We had a great sense of rhythm and syncing with the drums, the bass guitar as well. I think in the first track the bass came up and did like a soloish kind of thing with the vocals as well. Or there was another track where the bass would go up to the range to kind of sit with the vocals there. That would be in time with the drums or guitar as well. We would sort of harmonize with the root tones a lot of the time, but weren't afraid to get a little bit more sort of experimental occasionally with the scale shapes when we had room to do so within the arrangement. The keys there were wonderfully phrased and nicely sort of like the keys in the first track as well as in the sixth track, where there was some crazy sort of pedal note kind of parts going on. We understood the right hand how to flex, kind of have a bit of flexibility with that. We typically did 8ths or 16ths. There was a little bit of freeform stuff occasionally, but it was more of a sub-layerish kind of thing. So there were some rises and then some dissensions occasionally there to blow up and down the keys there as a bit more of a kind of a accented percussive effect. But we never tried to take away too much from the main vocal leads or anything like that. And it was very often very supportive. You know, again, we had piano in some of the intro bits there as a way of sort of foiling, kind of niching with the synths and stuff like that, or like the guitars or bass or something like that. But we didn't have like quote unquote piano solos or anything like that, as in a lot of pieces. I think it was kind of nice just to have them as kind of more of the ether thing than anything else. We can clearly play, but again, no overplaying. The strings as well as a final point, like I know like there were lots of different synth tones and now typically very complementary, but I think the strings are my like final pick for the instruments primarily because we did a great job of having them carry weight. They weren't all the time, but when they were, they came in a bit more, a little bit, and then a bit more, and a bit more, and then like they kind of allowed things to kind of rise and glow and sort of like stew and almost like emphasize the weight of the words and everything like that. They were harmonized lovely with the way that the guitar, piano, and bass stuff were done there. There were no weird notes or weird choices there. They never went on their own as a solo instrument. They were just there to add a bit of extra kind of weight in that mid to high range there. And almost ironically allow things to fly like and soar, you know. It's just despite the heaviness of some of the parts there. I thought it was tremendous having the strings in there. They're typically a great way of evoking a certain amount of feeling within a listener, but like they were done very tastefully here. The themes overall, again, as I mentioned, were too diverse to taste, but I think I don't think there was a point where the themes did not suit the vocals. Apart from that fourth track, I wasn't sure about that fourth one. I just think because I don't understand the core value. The lyrics didn't tell me enough about it, or I didn't understand them well enough. I didn't understand how they segged. I think it was more of a kind of a niche thing, and you kind of had to know more about the source material in order to really kind of gather the connections there. So in that regard, I kind of accept that maybe I'm missing some key connections there, but still, I don't think there was a note out of place. And I think the performances in general, as well as the connection between the vocals and the instrument performances were definitely there. It was well done. The studio recording, mixing, mastering was typically commercial grade. No complaints about the vocals, the guitar, bass, strings, synths, drums, or anything else there. There were even some claps at some point. There was dynamic range, there were sub-layers, the leveling in general was phenomenal. Things were nicely niched in the frequency spectrum, no weird resonant frequencies, as well as in the stereo field, you know. Things were nice and wide surrounding your headphones. Things were nice and wide and surrounded you in the headphones, with things occasionally going from left or right as well there to kind of sort of smooth around. I enjoyed the fact that we had some automation on the panning of the instruments as well, so the things were in the same place the entire time occasionally, but the music was also played statically in a lot of situations with instruments. And like there was also switches in tempo there where like as well as filtering effects occasionally on the vocals, where like they got rid of the high end or low end or something like that to make it sound like it was a radio filter. I should also note with the performance thing before we continue that the performance did drop the tempo on one of the tracks in a way that was very organic and really interesting and really well handled. I should note that the performance is tight regardless of the tempo shifts and one or other tracks. There was dynamic range in all the tracks apart from the fifth, because I think it was a re-upload and they just didn't have the same dynamic range as the original because of compression or fragmentation of the file. And it was not every track was nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting was handled. I mean, effectively, this is my review of these tracks from Minami. I had an incredible time with it. Hopefully you enjoyed the music. If you did, please go check out Minami via the various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either hell more than ever thought of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.